Hey, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive.
It's getting cold out there.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Time to think about staying warm,
Absolutely.
especially on those job sites.
Yep.
And that's why today we're going to be looking at OSHA Regulation 1926.154.
Okay.
Specifically, the section on temporary heating devices.
All right.
Really important stuff, especially for those of you working out in the field, as safety professionals.
For sure.
Got to keep those workers safe.
Yeah, we got to make sure everybody goes home at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Safe and sound and warm.
Warm and safe.
Right.
So I think the first thing that really jumps out at me when I'm looking at this OSHA regulation
Okay.
is this real emphasis on ventilation.
Right.
Why is fresh air such a big deal
Well, I mean, it's all about
when we're talking about temporary heaters?
it's all about the combustion, right?
Oh, yeah.
Those heaters need oxygen to burn efficiently.
Yeah.
And when there's not enough fresh air, circulating, you can get incomplete combustion, which can lead to a buildup of carbon monoxide.
That's right.
And we all know carbon monoxide is a silent killer.
Yeah. You can't smell it.
You can't smell it,
You can't taste it.
can't taste it, and it can be deadly.
Really dangerous.
Yeah. So that's really one of the biggest reasons why OSHA is so focused on ventilation.
And not just that.
But yeah, what else?
I mean, you're also reducing the overall oxygen levels
That's right.
if you don't have enough fresh air.
Absolutely. And that can lead to...
And it can lead to headaches, dizziness, all sorts of problems.
Yeah, you might start feeling lightheaded,
Yeah.
maybe a little nauseous.
Yeah.
And in really extreme cases, you could even have an explosion.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's really important to make sure there's enough fresh air circulating
That's right.
wherever you're using those temporary heaters.
And I noticed OSHA also specifically mentions confined spaces
Oh, yeah.
as needing even more attention
For sure.
to ventilation.
Confined spaces are particularly tricky
Yeah. What are some examples of confined spaces
because you have limited airflow to begin with.
on a job site where you really got to be careful?
Yeah. So, you're thinking about places like trenches,
Yeah.
manholes,
Yeah.
tanks, even some indoor areas that might not have adequate airflow.
Gotcha.
I once visited a site where they were using a propane heater inside a partially enclosed storage container.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was not a good situation.
That sounds really dangerous.
They had to completely rethink their ventilation strategy
Right.
to make sure those workers were safe.
To get that fresh air in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's a good reminder that,
Yeah.
we really need to be assessing
Constantly assessing.
those environments and
Okay.
thinking about how is that ventilation,
air move.
how's that air moving through the space?
Yep.
All right. Well, moving on from ventilation, OSHA also gets really specific
Oh, yeah.
about clearances,
Right.
keeping those heaters
Keeping them away
a safe distance
from anything flammable.
away from anything flammable. I mean, it seems like common sense, but I'm glad they spell it out because it's so important.
It's one of those things that can be easily overlooked,
Right.
in the hustle and bustle of a job site.
Absolutely.
But it's really crucial for preventing fires.
Yeah. Picture a heater,
Yeah.
too close to a stack of lumber,
Oh, yeah.
some insulation, even just like a pile of rags.
Just some rags lying around.
Yeah. One spark
One little spark.
and you could have a major fire.
Absolutely. I've actually investigated a case
Oh, wow.
where a radiant heater was placed too close to some building materials,
Oh, no.
and a gust of wind blew a tarp right onto the heater.
Oh,
Yeah, it caused a pretty significant fire.
wow.
It resulted in some injuries, unfortunately,
Oh, gosh.
and a lot of costly damage.
Yeah, I bet.
So, it's really important to take those clearances seriously.
Absolutely. And when I was looking at the standard,
Yeah.
I see that there are different clearance requirements
Oh, that's right.
for circulating and radiant heaters. Circulating heaters need at least 12 inches,
12 inches.
while radiant heaters need a full 36 inches.
That's a big difference.
Yeah, why such a big difference?
It all comes down to how the heat is distributed.
Oh, okay.
So circulating heaters, they warm the air,
Yeah.
and then that warm air circulates throughout the space.
Okay.
So the heater itself doesn't actually get as intensely hot,
Right.
but radiant heaters, on the other hand,
Yeah.
they directly heat objects and people
Okay.
within their line of sight.
So like they're shooting out that heat
They're shooting out that heat.
of whatever's in front of them.
Exactly. And they can get extremely hot.
Wow.
So that's why they need that extra buffer zone.
to make sure nothing catches fire.
Exactly. To prevent anything from igniting.
All right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I also noticed that there's some specific instructions about heaters on wood floors.
Oh, yeah.
OSHA says they can't be placed directly on wood or combustible materials.
Right.
So what's the recommended setup in that situation?
So in that situation, they need to be on a solid, non-combustible base,
Okay.
at least an inch of concrete or
Yeah.
something equivalent.
So like what?
So you could use things like cement board,
Cement board.
fire-resistant drywall,
Okay.
or even a metal plate.
Gotcha.
And it's important that the non-combustible material extends at least 2 feet beyond the heater in all directions.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's all about containing that heat
Yeah, keeping that heat away from that wood floor.
and preventing it from spreading to flammable materials.
Now, here's one that might seem obvious, but I'm glad OSHA spells it out.
What's that?
Heaters near tarps or canvas coverings.
Ah, yes.
They need to be at least 10 feet away.
10 feet away.
And the coverings have to be securely fastened.
Yeah.
Why is that so crucial?
Well, remember that incident I mentioned earlier?
Oh, yeah, with the tarp.
With the tarp blowing onto the heater.
Yeah.
Wind can be unpredictable.
Yeah, you never know which way it's going to blow.
Exactly. And it can easily blow a tarp or a canvas covering into a heater,
Right into that heater.
starting a fire.
Oh, man.
Or even worse, it could knock the heater over,
Oh, yeah.
which is incredibly dangerous, especially with those radiant heaters.
Yeah, those things get so hot.
They get super hot.
So you don't want them tipping over
No, you do not.
on anything.
So those secure fastenings are essential
Right.
for preventing those scenarios.
Definitely something we don't want to see on a job site.
Agreed.
Speaking of things we don't want to see, OSHA gives a hard no
Hard no.
to solid fuel salamanders
Interesting.
in buildings and on scaffolds.
Yeah.
Why are those particularly risky?
Well, salamanders that burn solid fuels like wood or coal,
Okay.
they're notorious for producing sparks and embers.
Yeah.
You know, they're kind of like open flames,
Right.
and that makes them a serious fire hazard.
Yeah.
Especially in enclosed spaces or on scaffolds where you often have flammable materials nearby.
So many things could catch fire.
Exactly. And they just don't offer the level of control that we need on a modern job site.
Gotcha. So better to avoid those.
It's best to avoid them if at all possible.
All right. Well, let's shift gears and talk about oil-fired heaters.
Okay.
This part of the standard gets a little technical,
It does.
but I think we can break it down.
I think so too.
First off, every flammable liquid-fired heater
Every single one.
needs a primary safety control
Right.
to shut off the fuel if the flame goes out.
Yes.
Why is that so important?
So imagine this. The flame goes out, but
Okay.
the fuel keeps flowing.
Oh, no.
You're going to quickly have a buildup of flammable vapors,
Oh,
creating a very real risk of explosion.
yeah.
And that primary safety control,
Right.
it acts as a fail-safe
Gotcha.
to prevent that from happening.
Makes sense.
It's a critical safety feature.
Really important.
Absolutely.
And OSHA is very clear that barometric or gravity oil feed systems
Right?
don't count as primary safety controls.
They do not.
Why not? I'll admit this is one area where I could use some clarification.
So those older systems rely on pressure differences
Okay.
or gravity to regulate the fuel flow.
Okay.
And they're simply not as reliable as modern safety controls. They can fail and allow fuel to continue flowing,
Even after the flame is out.
even after the flame is out, which is
Really
a
dangerous.
recipe for disaster.
That's a good analogy.
It's like driving a car without brakes.
Yeah.
You're just asking for trouble.
They have a bad time.
Yeah. So that's why OSHA mandates those more robust controls for oil-fired heaters.
Gotcha. So what's the deal with integral tanks versus separate supply tanks?
All right. So heaters with those less reliable barometric or gravity feeds,
Yeah.
they are limited to using integral tanks.
Okay.
Which means the tank is built into the heater unit itself.
All right.
But for heaters that are specifically designed and approved for separate supply tanks,
Okay.
you have options.
Gotcha.
You can connect a separate tank directly for gravity feed,
Okay.
or you can use a tank with an automatic pump.
And that pump just adds another layer of control.
Adds another layer of control and safety.
Right. So to sum it all up,
Big three.
ventilation clearances and fuel safety are the big three
Absolutely.
when it comes to using temporary heating
For sure.
safely on job sites.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts for our listeners out there?
Beyond just following the letter of the OSHA regulation,
Yeah.
I really encourage all safety professions to be proactive.
Proactive.
Yeah. You know, train your crews
Train your crews.
thoroughly on safe heating practices.
Oh, and
Have regular toolbox talks
toolbox talks.
dedicated to this topic.
Eh?
And don't forget about those site inspections.
Yeah.
You know, make sure those heaters are being used correctly and safely.
Go there and see for yourself
Exactly.
that everything's being done the right way.
It's all about fostering a culture of safety on every job site,
Love that.
especially when those temperatures start to drop.
Yeah, it's easy to forget about safety when you're just Trying to stay warm. All right. Well, a big thanks to Safety One Source for supporting this deep dive.
Absolutely.
And to Job Site Safety.
Great information.
Stay warm and stay safe out there, everyone.
See you next time.
See ya.